So Big Josh, wait, I got like two things I got to talk to you about today before we get into the show, talking about indie games once again. Of course, last week we did our indie game of the year, all sorts of fun, but we didn't talk about the news. This week,
true.
we're coming at you with a whole bunch of news stories. I'm excited. We finally have some news stories to talk about. It's going to be fun. But before we talk about that, I have to, one, just point out, okay, well, I guess I got a few things to talk about. One, there's this thing where like people will only eat popcorn hot, you know, like right out the go. You heat up your popcorn. People are only into it then.
Unless
are
it's like
you one of those people?
Popcorn.
Okay, so you'll eat like you'll eat technically old popcorn if it's caramel popcorn.
Yeah. Because caramel popcorn doesn't have to be hot. It's just the whole point. Or if it's covered in chocolate or whatnot. Like,
I was gonna say, like,
matter.
what about the big tins that come with the three different types?
Yeah,
dude, that's
like
my
the
fucking
cheese,
jam.
the caramel, and the regular popcorn. Yeah, those are like a staple to Christmas.
Even though, in all honesty, I fucking despise caramel corn. Like, I hate it so much, dude. It fucking sucks. It's like be candy or be nothing. You know what I mean? But
I'm not a big fan of popcorn in general. Like, it's okay, but yeah, I'm not a big like popcorn fan. It's good. I'll eat it, but I'll never go out of my way to be like, you know what I'm really craving? Some popcorn. It would be like someone has popcorn and they're like, do you want this? And I'll be like, I guess I'll have some. But there's
really
never,
okay.
Yeah, I don't.
All right.
Even Trader Joe's has this thing called Jingle Jangle, which is this really delicious chocolatey snack thing that they do, and it's just like a mixture of a bunch of stuff in a tin. It's always like their Christmas little thing, and it's like these really cool s'mores cookies, chocolate covered pretzels. These like they're basically M&Ms, but they're like little chocolate candies they call them. And then there's like the popcorn covered in chocolate. Oh, and these little tiny like Reese's Pieces type things.
It's just diabetes in a tin, is what you're saying.
It's pretty great.
Okay.
But I eat it and I'm just like, these pretzels and these little cookies are fucking great. And then I just eat all of those and I'm like, man, now I just got a bowl of fucking things I don't want.
It's just like fucking trail mix and shit. You just eat all the good parts and you're like, now I'm stuck with a bag of raisins. This fucking sucks.
And you're like, I duped myself.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm a fan of popcorn. I like me some popcorn, especially like movie theater popcorn, whatever. But I'm the only person I know, and it makes me feel like some sort of like depraved human being. Like this is one of the things akin with like me enjoying to eat sunflower seeds whole that people would point to as like deviant behavior, borderline sociopathic. I love old popcorn. It's such a good snack, you know? So like, I will make popcorn sometimes and then just purposely not eat it for hours. And so it ages like a fine wine and then I eat it, you know? And it's definitely weird. I understand that it's weird, but like, dude, I can't tell you how much I love going to the movies one day, getting that like free refill of popcorn right before we leave, setting it on the counter, and then the next day just down in that whole popcorn. Wow. So good.
It's fucking super weird.
So good.
Have never heard that before, but
really?
Okay. There's never, but I don't know. I guess I don't hang out with a lot of people who are always eating popcorn either. So I don't.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I do love those popcorn tins though, because it's just like, it's old popcorn. Like that's what it is. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. It's exactly what I wanted for Christmas. I mean, that caramel corn fucking sucks. And you know what pisses me off? When they do the halve, they do it in like the thirds.
The threes.
But they go half of it's caramel corn, and that other half, they split it between normal popcorn and the cheese popcorn. I'm like, you fucked me. Okay. Why? This is so fucking bullshit. Like I don't.
So are you a fan of the cheese though, or are you just a hater of? Okay, so you just hate the caramel corn.
Yeah, I love the cheese. I just hate caramel corn. Like it's not. Okay. I hate it. I hate it so much. I don't get it. Like my wife
exactly
likes
what to send you for Christmas this year.
I'll fucking die, bro. You send me some caramel corn, I'm
gonna buy 2 of them, and I'm gonna then dump out the regular popcorn and cheese so that I can give you just 2 halves of caramel corn.
Or even worse, like basically send me one that looks like it's entirely just the cheese and normal stuff. But the second I get past the first layer, it's just a whole tub of caramel corn.
Yes, exactly.
Or just like a photorealistic picture on top. Like, I don't know how you do that to mimic texture, but like I go to grab it and my hand just like, whatever. Dunks. It's a hologram. My hand goes through. It's caramel corn. I kill myself. You know what I mean?
I can't wait.
That'd be a sick prank right there. That'd be pretty sweet. I'd have to appreciate that just a little bit, But
that's it.
Outside of that, there's another thing that I noticed recently is that like, bro. Fucking ginger ale is delicious, and I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And maybe this is like the 80-year-old in like a 26-year-old body kind of a thing. Like, it's one of the symptoms of what I'd say like I'm plagued with, which is just old person soul. Yeah. But dude, fucking my wife, like I'm trying not to drink soda or anything, just drinking a bunch of water and stuff. And my wife, like,
good.
She gets like just a couple of different things, but this week she bought ginger ale, and I was like, you know what? I want something like a little bit fizzy with my dinner yesterday. I was like, can I have one of those ginger ales? Like, it's whatever. I fuck with a LaCroix on occasion. Like, just like, it's whatever. I thought it was going to taste like that. I thought it was going to taste like you teabagged some seltzer water with a cherry. Before? Never. What? I've never had ginger ale before.
What, yeah. Dude?
So she was like, yeah, you can have one. And I grabbed it. I was like, oh, fuck me, this shit is delicious. And the weird thing is, it's even like the 0 sugar ginger ale, so it's worse, but it's still so good. Like I'm seriously like, I don't get it. Damn. I feel like I've been lied to my whole life. It doesn't make any sense. They're like, oh, Pepsi's the best for you. It definitely won't make your like veins rock hard. You know what I mean? And ginger ale's just sitting over here being delicious as fuck, 0 everything. I don't know how it has a taste. Everything's like 0% except for sodium, which still doesn't make sense to me. I was like sitting out there, my wife was like, yeah, they advertise some sodas as 0 sodium. And I was like,
it's just chemicals, baby.
Like, salt in this fucking soda? What is this about? But yeah, that's
all it is. Wow, I cannot believe you've never had ginger ale before. I used to really enjoy it. I don't really drink much sodas anymore, but every so often I'll have one and I do enjoy it. Oh, nice. A nice, man, for those listening, you got to check that video out. That was a great sip. So good. Canada Dry, sponsor us, baby.
Speaking of video, last thing I want to show you today. My wife got this box of like cat toys. She gets
for her to play with.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. She got really into, it's actually kind of hilarious. My roommate's son like has all these fucking dope ass toys. He's got like the Indominus Rex. He's got a big Chase that he can ride around the house on, but he loves playing with the cat toys. Yes, a big version of my friend. No, Chase from Paw Patrol, like the dog that's a police officer. I guess, I should have elaborated on that a little bit. It's just like a gigantic human being that he can ride on. No, so we have just like, he has all these dope ass toys, but loves playing with the cat toys for some reason. And it's so funny. But my wife has gotten really into subscription boxes recently. Like she even gets like produce delivered in subscription boxes. It's so weird. But she got all these cat toys with catnip in them. And she got one of them and she thinks it's like hilarious that I want to show this to you. This is once again a video thing, so you're going to have to check it out. This thing looks like a cock, dude.
Dude.
It's supposed to be like a microphone, but I was talking to my wife. I was like, it's too flaccid to be a microphone. And it has like this head on it that totally looks like a dick.
That's... Oh, man.
So I want everyone to revel in the fact that this looks like R2-D2's dong. For just a couple seconds, before we get into the indie games for today, I want you to know this is a robot penis, definitely not a microphone.
Yeah, and that's what you're missing out on if you're not watching us.
Exactly. Check out the YouTube. You can see my dope ass sips of the Canada Dry, and you can see robot penises. Hello and welcome to IndiePod, an Indie Games podcast, your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week we are bringing you one news story. It might be technically a quick one, but of course, we have a whole bunch of stuff in News Cram. We are going to talk about our indie shout-outs for this month. Going to answer some, I want to say, disturbing questions from Mr. Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia. And then we're just going to fuck off because that's the end of the podcast. We're done. Tired. I've got to edit this. I've got to edit and put up our book club because yesterday I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I totally forgot. So I got to do that after this.
Whoops.
And just like so much good stuff. But before we get into that, I would like to introduce myself, Vaughn Hyde, alongside my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average Josh Boys. How you doing today, big Josh Boy?
I'm doing good. Apparently better than you. I don't have to edit a bunch of episodes after this. So things are looking up.
I mean, I kind of fucked myself, dude. Like,
I
I definitely did. I should have just done it yesterday, but I got caught up watching Metabots, and then I had to go buy a new pair of pants, and then my wife made a fucking ham, and it was delicious. Like,
oh, man. Yeah. I don't know how you would fit anything into that schedule. That just sounds like too much.
Life is just too good right now, bro.
I got fucked by my own sleep schedule last night.
Noise.
Look, I never sleep. Anytime I'm supposed to go to bed, I'm always playing Isaac or some other game because I'm an idiot. Of course
you are.
It's like 3 a.m. and I'm like, I gotta go to bed. And I usually get roughly around 4 or 5 hours of sleep. It's like my usual. So last night, I was like, all right, I'm gonna start the week off good. I'm gonna go to bed early. It was like a full 8-9 hours of sleep. And I was so ready for it. I had the worst sleep. I just sat there just staring and I could not go to bed. I felt so tired, so much worse than any night that I've ever just gotten my 4-hour usual sleep. And I was like, this is the worst. I've spent 9 hours doing nothing. I could have just been playing games. What am I doing right now?
Yeah, I've every Sunday, I try to make sure that I go to bed a little bit earlier because I'm got to record the podcast and everything. I want to have a good start to the day, whatever. Every time I try to go to bed. Instead, I basically just lay there. And it's it's not 2 a.m. yet. You don't go to bed at this time.
Your body knows.
Are you fucking kidding me, bro?
So it's so tough, man. My body just wants me to get Alzheimer's. That's all it is.
It's just it's slowly deteriorating, and it's you can't take us from this path, bitch. It's not gonna happen.
My body is just slowly breaking down. It's the point of getting old. My shoulder, apparently it's your rotator cuff or whatever the hell they call it. I don't know. I guess ligaments or tendons in there are just not working right. And they were yeah, you might have to get surgery. And I was like, don't want to do that. And I was like,
you got to calm down on that Dutch rudder, big Josh boy. You're doing a little bit too much of this. You know what I mean?
But this is the left one. It doesn't even make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm going to try doing a bunch of dumb physical therapy type workouts for a while and see if that helps. And if not, might have to get my arm fucked up.
Isn't it hilarious that we have evolved however far, and then we just stopped at your life basically just goes downhill after 25. You're kind of just
break down. Yeah, I mean, humans weren't meant to last this long, you know?
I mean, maybe it has to do something with inbreeding, you know what I mean? Maybe we did this to ourselves. Our cousins are a little bit too cute, you know? And it was but you know
how we always seem to get there on this show.
It's just something I enjoy to talk about, apparently. Before we get into anything else, I would like to go through our housekeeping. Please check out our developer interview going live this Wednesday, which is, of course, Wednesday, the 26th of January. That is with Shotgun Anaconda, the developer of Velocity Noodle. Looks actually really interesting and really weird at the same time. It very fast paced. It seems cool. Okay, check it out.
It's a pretty cool game. It literally just dropped I think last week. So listen to it. If you like what you hear, definitely pick it up. It looks fun.
All right. There you go. While you're on your browser, why not head over to Teespring? You could pick up a IndiePod t-shirt, a dope-ass sweater like the big Josh boy right there is wearing, and, other stuff. I'm not going to specify anything. Head over to YouTube
That's all we do.
And subscribe over there. You can like our videos. Hell, you can leave us a comment letting me know how dumb I look, whatever, how cute the big Josh boy is, whatever you want to do. Leave us reviews on any site in which you can do so, specifically iTunes and Spotify. Help us out a bunch. And lastly, thank you so much to all of our amazing patrons at the $3 tier or higher. If you give us any amount of time, any amount of your money, you are absolutely fantastic and we adore you for it. But we got to thank those $3 patrons. Oh my God, it's once again a time that I just blanked. No longer remembered words. But at least this time wasn't like in our book club where I did it for like a solid minute. Instead, this time was like a couple seconds and I was back on it. Yeah. I'm not going to keep it in the book club episode.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is obviously that part's going to get taken out because that was a bit more ridiculous. You're like, oh man, I wish people could see it though, because it was like hilarious.
A real part in our book club episode where I was in the middle of a thought and then I just stopped.
Yeah,
and I just like looked at Josh and I was like, I forgot how to talk.
I loved it, man. It's one of those things where you're looking at it and you're like, wow, his brain literally just turned off right now. Like that's exactly what happened. It was just like, I'm done. That's enough for today.
But y'all will never see it. That's your problem. You know what I mean? Thank you so much. Ryan, Ethan, a gamer for fun. John, it's just John, bro. Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the one-man improv Australia, and Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much. You are all so amazing. And Big Josh boy, you have been playing Olija by Skeleton Crew Studios and Thomas Olsson, I believe is how you'd say that. Yeah. Please tell me about it. I'm assuming you're playing both of these, this and Nobody Saves the World on Xbox Game Pass.
That is correct. So Olija is actually a game that I talked with the developer about a year ago or so, because this game came out a year ago, but was recently released on Xbox Game Pass. That's how I ended up playing it. I actually regret not playing it earlier and not picking it up because it was a lot of fun. I played it from, start to finish. It's only about a 4 or 5-ish hour type game. So relatively short. But it's got this really interesting mechanic where let me backtrack and just say kind of like the story, the setup of it. You're this individual who's in a town that is kind of starving and you venture out to find food for your village. You end up on your boat going through this storm and crashing into this island. And it's this island of basically people who, the way it kind of works is it's these people who have been in similar situations. They've drifted into that world and kind of just been left to die. Sort of. It's this very disheartening type island. And there's also these like cursed beings or these types of like just haunted villains that are all scattered throughout the islands in this area. So it's you basically being the savior of these people by just trying to travel through and find your way home. And in that process, you end up getting followers and end up getting people who are there to fight on your side. But the reason why you're kind of like the chosen one is you find this spear that has these magical properties where when you throw it, you can ricochet it back to you. So you can like have it teleport. And so it's got this really cool mechanic where you can throw it, you can dash to it and teleport to the spear. So it allows a lot of opportunity of really quick movement in the game to be able to constantly just go from one side of the map to another, to eventually do a bunch of different puzzles where you have to stick the spear into certain areas to unlock other, types of walls. And eventually you get to do something with a sword as well. And you have like a subset of secondary weapons. So you have like a rapier, you have like a shotgun, you have a crossbow. And so you use these combinations of things to fight the enemies and bosses throughout this land to get these keys to open up a basically like this door that will get you back to your own homeland. I won't go into any more of like the story or kind of like the craziness that ensues, but I think that it's a short experience. It's really fun. And one of my favorite parts is the main type of like upgrades or things that you can modify the game with are hats.
Oh,
you can make little hats. Yeah,
that's cute.
There's even an achievement for making the developer's favorite hat.
All right, like, that seems pretty interesting.
There's very few achievements in the game, and it's like I think 100 gamer score, which is like ridiculous just
Not
to build
much
this.
At all?
Well, no, it's a lot in comparison to like.
Oh, I thought you meant like the game itself. Only had 100 gamer
like
score. I was like, that's not a lot.
Just to build that hat, it's like I think 100, and they're just like, here you go, because there's only like 10 achievements in the game. So I was like, what the hell? But anyway, achievement score doesn't matter. The hats are really cool. I would recommend going for the poison one that just like you kill things and poison just shoots out of you. It just wrecks bosses. Super good. I had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, there's not too much more, but if you are looking for a small little, it's kind of like a Metroidvania, but not really. It's more of just like an action platform type game. But it does have you traveling back and forth sometimes. But if you like games with a lot of fast progression as far as like momentum and movement on the map, because you have the ability to constantly throw your spear and teleport to the place that you're throwing your spear. You have a lot of just these puzzles and different areas to go through. I would recommend the game, hands down. It is a banger, I would say.
Oh, bringing back the banger, Big Josh boy.
Bringing back the banger.
So it's pronounced Olija?
Yeah, Olija. So it's
I've been fucking that up for a long time.
Yeah.
And like ever since it was revealed.
Yeah. And it's basically, that because it's like when you start up the game, it'll go Olija. And it's the name of like this princess or this like queen of the land or someone that's highly respected that you're constantly going back and forth to.
I remember that the game has this like really minimalist art style where it's like it's I guess I should say it's like 8-bit for the most part. It's
kind of
interesting at the very least, but the gameplay, the way you explain it, sounds really fun.
It was a lot of fun. The one thing that I will say is there's little moments in the game that kind of suck when it comes to like you can move so fast in this game where you're dashing back and forth, you're fighting things, you're going from one side of the map to another. But then you have like these moments where the game will just kind of lock you into these states of just kind of like sitting there and waiting for things to happen. And it really just kills that momentum. It'll be like, oh, you want to go to another map, like to a different area? Okay, get on the boat, tell the guy, and you have to like pick where you want him to row you over to. And then there's like a 10-second between each place that you go to where he's like rowing a boat and you're like waiting for him to get to the edge of the dock. And you're like, motherfucker, just get me there and just let me run. Like, why do you have to make me wait every time we go to a new place?
It's like the Mass Effect elevator, but if no one spoke to you. It's got like zero exposition. You're just like sitting there. Like
he'll talk to you, but it's not like it's the same kind of, mumble text where there's text there, but it's like, and you're like, okay, great. But like, I don't really care as much. I could read and also move forward if I needed to, like, it's fine. But anyway, small things. It's like little things that kind of break that momentum that I think are what make the game so great are the negatives, but the actual gameplay, the battling to it, like, I think it's really well done.
All right. You are also playing Nobody Saves the World by Drinkbox Studios. Big Josh Boy has got like a pulsing penis for this game. I want to hear about it. Tell me how much you love it. Tell me why it's inferior to The Binding of Isaac in every way.
I won't say that. Nobody Saves the World is a really good game. I'm very much enjoying it. I do agree with a lot of people who have given it kind of I like it, but it's not amazing type ratings. Or reviews. It's a really good game, but it does have parts where it gets kind of like it's a grind fest. Like in a good way though. It's very much like it feels like a Sunday afternoon, sit down, you got snacks, you're just kind of like playing, seeing how far you can level up your characters. The whole idea is, and I've talked about this before in the demo, it's the same if you play the demo, like that intro is the exact same experience you're going to get. There's nothing different from that, which makes sense because it was fairly close to the actual release date when that demo came out and when I talked about this. But the main premise is you are nobody. That's why it says nobody saved the world. You're just a nobody. You're this character who's just like a naked white blob looking thing. And you find a magical wand and you're able to transform into these different creatures or these different beings. And so you find out more about the story that's kind of interesting. I like where it's going right now. But the whole premise behind this is really just you're a nobody. You transform into these different creatures. You then in each of these forms get to level up those forms by doing these like little checklist items. So you turn into a horse and you have a gallop move, which like you run really fast into people and it'll be like hit people 50 times with that move and you'll get it. You'll get some experience. You keep doing enough of those checklists and you level up. You go from F all the way to A and then A to S rank. And as you level those up, you then unlock more. So you'll get to, you'll do the horse, get him to, I think it's like C level, and then it turns to a turtle and you get to be a turtle. And it's cool because the turtle can go in water and you're like, oh, now there's new places I can explore. Because you find out as the map starts, kind of like once you're done with that first dungeon, there's just this giant like overworld. And it becomes very much a walk back and forth throughout the map, turn into these different creatures, do different quests for these guilds. Like there's a thieves guild, there's a warriors, like a knights guild, and you have to help them out to gain general experience, which every time you level up a form or do something in the world, you get experience for your character in general, which just makes your base stats go up. And you're doing this whole like idea of, there's this impending doom. There's this thing called the Calamity, which is like these evil beings that are terrorizing the world, and you're trying to stop them. Is the main idea behind the background of the story. And the main person who normally would fight them, this grand wizard, is missing for some reason. So you're trying to find him and also help the Calamity, like help get rid of the Calamity.
That's an unfortunate
I know.
moniker there,
isn't it? Isn't it?
Did you do that on purpose? Is his name David Duke? Like, what's up?
Yeah. So, it's got a lot of character to it. A lot of the times when you talk to people, they're like really strange one-line type sentences where you're like, okay, what the hell? Like, it's very quirky. I do enjoy the writing to this. I love the different characters and the different forms you get. But as you start getting to a certain point, it becomes a grind where you're just like, all right, I'm just going to have to keep like leveling these characters up and trying to do their little checklist items rather than progress through the story, because I need to just upgrade these forms to get new forms, to get levels, to get stronger, to get like, and it becomes this loop, which is fun, but it does have a bit of that, like, could this have been a shorter game if you just took out a bit of the grinding, right? I've heard that it's like a 15-hour experience. I've played probably like 7 or 8 so far now. I'm enjoying it though. Like, I don't mind it, but it is one of those things where some people I can see getting kind of like burnout from it, of just being in that fashion of, I don't want to keep leveling these characters up, but I do like it. I think one of the coolest parts is that every time you level up these characters, you get abilities that you can use and passive abilities from each of them. And as you unlock those forms and get higher levels, you can then swap out abilities and passives from one form to another. So like you have a zombie character that you can be that gets passive like this. Every time you do damage, you get health back. So you can take that away from the zombie and put it on another character. So you could have your warrior now does that as well, which is like an interesting thing, because you can have, vice versa, a warrior who has the zombies spell that turns people into zombies. And so you can just start creating this weird zombie warrior type build. Like, it just depends on what you want to play around with. The game kind of like with some of the passive checklist items for experience will push you in that direction by saying like, oh, you have to use this specific skill with a character. But after you're done with that, you just play around with what's your favorite things to put on characters. And then there's just like a ton of dungeons and different quests, like I said, around the world. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm enjoying it. I definitely can see why there are some people who are like, it's good, but not amazing. Like I agree with this. I wouldn't say that this is going to be, obviously this is so early in, but like I'm sure there's going to be games out there that top this for like my 2022 game of the year, right? But as of right now, it's one of my favorite things that I've played this year.
Okay. All right. Did they still have that weird thing you told me about where you'll like show up as nobody and then like later on you'll show up as a rat and they'll talk to you how you're still not wearing your shirt or whatever and you're just like, I'm a rat, dude. What?
Yeah, so there is a little bit of that because if you have like a very serious storyline moment, like a cutscene, it'll snap you back to being the nobody from whatever character you were. So it like kind of makes sense. But then there will be people that you talk to that say the same lines and it doesn't make sense. Like that lady is basically saying like, hey, you got no pants on. And then you'll walk around as a horse and be like, you got no pants on. And it's like, bitch, horses don't need pants. Like, what are you doing here? But then
we all know you want to see my fat cock in the breeze. What do you mean?
That's true. Come on now. But then at the same time, you'll have like the shopkeep who knows that you're going to be in different forms and will say something based on each form you're in. Like if you're the slug, he'll basically make a joke about being like, oh, you're gross, go away. And then he's like, just kidding. You get your slimy butt over here or something like that. I don't know if I can know. But
that's weird. That makes me like, it reminds me of in Bloodborne. Like I think it's like insight. Once you get a certain amount of insight, you can actually start to see the eldritch beings like within the world of Bloodborne that weren't there before.
Yeah.
And it seems like this fucking guy just have some weird sort of like Lovecraftian sense where he's like, I can see you, but everyone else just sees like this naked dude running around.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know how much goes into that for, what they wanted to do with, I guess some of those are just their static lines, no matter what character you have. But I do like that there are some quests that like they pay or they play into the fact that you have to have those certain forms unlocked or have certain forms that you use to complete the quest. So there's this one in the Thieves Guild that you have to walk in and buy a bunch of different knives. And it's this thing where you can only buy it one, like the special is you can only buy this knife one per person. And so you're like, okay, it'll be good because you have all these different forms. And so I have like a ton of forms and I go in as a horse and the guy's like, hey, you can't read the sign? No animals allowed. Get the hell out of here. And I'm like, what the hell? And so then I come in as a mermaid and he's like, hey, did you read the sign? No animals or mutants. And he's like, and you're half mutant, so get out. Like, so it's things like that where I had to find different forms that were all like human types to walk in and like complete the quest. So there's little things like that are kind of cool.
All right, that's cute. For me this week, obviously you could see in our doc, I'm not really playing anything. I've just been playing a whole bunch more Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm trying to finish this fucking game, dude. And it's such a slog sometimes to the point where like, the other day, I was like, I fucking hate that this is this way. Like every time you basically, there are these tablets that are just randomly scattered throughout the map. So you can't just find, you have to look inside of these skulls littered throughout maps to then show them on the map and then they'll be in these areas. You can't just like stumble on them. You have to do this other thing first, which sucks because like I talked about before, sometimes you'll go through an area, clear it, and then you'll find the thing and have to go back and fucking gather them. And I'm getting so fucking sick of it, dude. And I was like, oh, I was so fucking close. Thank you. Josh just put in the doc of Dragon Age bullshit, so just enjoy that. Over the weekend, I was so close to just like, I got my PS5. I just want to play fucking Bloodborne without a jet engine right next to my face. I could do it right now. And luckily, I didn't play any because I had to update the game, and I was like, ooh, you almost got me, Temptation. You almost got me. But I seriously think I'm just going to stop doing side quests. I just don't give a fuck. I'm 60 hours into this game. I'm ready to be done, dude. I'm done. You know,
sounds like you're having a great time.
I'm trying to get all of because you have all these different companions and I'm trying to hang out with all of them and do their quests. But some of them I'm like, you just suck as a person. I don't want to do this. Like, I fucking hate you. And I can't figure out every one of your ideals. I'm just on the opposite side. So unless I want to piss everybody else off, I have to piss you off. It's just, It's super annoying, but dude, I'm working off of this like GameStG build or some shit like that. It's like some random build I found for the Knight Enchanter specialization for mages, and I fucking shred. It's insane. I literally like wipe out entire groups of enemies in one hit. I've been working on the Depths DLC, which is when you go into the deep roads, which for those who don't know, Dragon Age, it's kind of a cool thing. It's like there are these old dwarven catacombs that were then taken over by these vaguely zombie creatures called Darkspawn. It's a lot. There's a lot that goes into like the world of Thedas, but I was like running through and opened up this door and there were like a shitload of enemies and I just threw down 2 spells and killed them immediately and my computer like bugged out and I was stuck under the map and I was like, what fuck? And I couldn't fucking move at all. I was just like basically between the map and under it. So I was just like, ooh, and I had to like exit the game and then go back into the game. Luckily, for some reason, it saved right before that happened. So I was like right there. But otherwise, I was like, great, I'm going to have to fucking redo so much dumb shit. But yeah, it was weird. I'm just fucking murking bitches with this build, though, which might make it a little bit less interesting because I never have a hard time. I just throw down like 2 spells and kill everything, but it's still fun. It's still a lot of fun.
Just remember, kids, save often.
Exactly, dude. I've probably saved like 600 times in this fucking game. I save like every 5 minutes. It's insane, you know? But good whatever. Habits. We have thoroughly covered the indie games that Big Josh Boy's been playing in my Dragon Age bullshit, so it's time to hop into our news stories. Our first and only news story for this week comes our way of Nintendo Life. It is written by Kate Gray, and it is Super Rare launches publishing label Super Rare Originals with 5 new games. So Super Rare Games, they are known for doing physical copies of indie games. In here it says like they put out one roughly every 3 weeks, which I feel like is a pretty good estimate because I'm constantly having to fucking write these things up in our news cram segment. I actually think we have some in there today. I know for a fact we have at least one in there today. Yeah. So, but they have decided to create this new publishing arm of Super Rare Games and have announced 5 different games that are going to be included in this. Those are Grapple Dog, a 2D pixel art platformer, Post Void, which is an arcade style FPS with procedurally generated levels. The Gecko Gods is a puzzle adventure game where you play as a tiny lizard. Lone Ruin, a roguelite twin stick shooter focused on magic, and Complete Stretchy, a short first-person cartoon experience, which seems pretty weird. My biggest issue, one thing I just wanted to talk about is like, if you want to look into this, watch the trailer, I guess, at your own peril, because I don't believe that they have a disclaimer at the front of it that says like, hey, if you're prone to seizures, maybe you should chill a little bit. Once you get to that post-void thing, it's like, it gave me a headache and it's only like 10 seconds. It's fucking crazy. Yeah. Like it really gets into it. But Big Josh Boy, how do you feel about this new publishing arm in Super Rare Games?
Yeah. Before I say that, I didn't even think about the seizure idea, but it's a really
It's a
really good point because it does kind of go nuts right from the get-go. Which then, I mean, and I get that that's kind of the theme for that game specifically, where these others are more tame, but yeah, damn, it goes hard right at the start.
Oh yeah, it like really gets you into it, and it's kind of weird because it's nestled in between these like I would say calmer games. Then that one's just like, and you're like, holy shit, what the fuck?
It's really strange because this type of advertisement is like pushing the games more than the fact that they are like, I get that this is kind of a weird thing to do because yeah, there's not much to say other than like, hey, we got games, but it is interesting that you start off with those games pushed together because it kind of looks like this weird, like this could be one game, right? And it's just this weird, very calm, but then something crazy happens and you got, the flashing lights, but instead you just got to watch the full 2 minutes and then you're like, oh, Super Rare Games. Okay, they're making their own things. Like, what is this? To talk about what you originally asked me, I think this is cool. It's actually funny that we talk about this because I just did an interview with the developer for Lone Ruin, and we talked about the fact that they're now being published by Super Rare, because I had reached out before I even knew that, and then the next day they were like, "Oh, by the way, this is a thing that you might want to know just while we do the interview." And I was like, "Cool, just saw that, really interesting news." And when I talked to them about it, I was like, "Oh, how long have you been sitting on that?" And they were like, "Oh, since September." And I was like, "That's a long time." And I guess, maybe that's just normal because there's just like a lot of buildup, especially since this is their first reveal of it. But I was like, that's a long time for them to be like, "Yes, we agree to you being a part of us, but also shut your mouth." Like,
yeah, it is a very long time to keep a secret, but this just kind of goes to show how long deals take in the industry. Because I feel like this isn't an outlier. So however much you might think like these weird, like these like weird instances of publishing a game that's kind of fucked up, or like basically putting out a tone deaf statement and stuff like that about games, these things take a while. It's not just like off the cuff. So when that happens, you should probably take anything that they say in defense with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting that it was like all the way back in September. I wonder if this was like them not saying anything about it was also because they were just like kind of rounding out their slate. Maybe they wanted to make sure they found these 5 games before they talked about it, or like maybe they didn't have like the whole pipeline actually done, because publishing physical versions of games and actually just publishing games are a little bit different.
Right.
So I don't know. It is really cool. I would actually like to hear from the developers behind this to see how it goes, which they actually do talk about. They made several new hires for this, which they hired the founder of Curve Digital, Jason Perkins, the producer at Supermassive Games, Tom King, and the internal QA quality assistance team. They ended up like hiring a decent amount of people for this, which is good. I'm glad that they seem to be actually putting an effort into making this like a real part of their label and not just the offshoot of something they're doing when they're not publishing physical games.
Yeah. The interesting thing, like if you look in the comments, and I didn't even really think about this at all just because it seems so crazy, but we did have a publisher or someone who came out a few months back and said like, "Hey, we're going to try doing these limited release digital games." Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was something similar.
It was weird.
It was something similar to like this company where they're known for something different, right? Super Rare, known for more physical goodies. Now trying to take this, approach where they're doing digital releases. But I wouldn't expect, and based on this, I don't see anything or have any reason to believe that this would be a limited release. And I think there's a lot of things that they can take away from, obviously publishing something physically versus publishing something digitally is going to be different. But like they already have a foot in the door and know a lot of the things that are going to come their way. So I think it's, a much more scalable and safe way for this company to continue business and to kind of like stay afloat in weird times when physical might not always be the option. But it's also cool because, and this is one of the things that I was talking to with the developer, I was like, and they didn't give me like, they couldn't say like what was what because they're still, in contract and they also don't know what will happen. But my question was about, if your game does really well, because Super Rare is Super Rare, is there the potential of these games that are digital to then be physical, right? Like they have the know-how to turn these into physical goodies if one of them does really well, or if any of them do really well, which I think is cool because then, you might not get it, but they're the team who would know how to do it if that happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who it was that said that they were doing the like limited release things. I feel like it might have been strictly limited, but I'm not 100% sure. I honestly, like at the back of my head, I feel like it was Super Rare, to be completely honest. But
I hope not.
I don't think so. I'm kind of thrown off by it at this point. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll eventually figure it out. I was like trying to type in a bunch of different keywords, but really couldn't find it because, of course, it just kept coming up with like the limited physical releases. And I was like, not exactly what I was looking for, but thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. But I do think that this is cool. I think it's like a great new way for independent developers to get their games published because I know it can be pretty difficult to do that on your own.
Right.
And I mean, there's also like stuff like the Thunderful group, their stuff where they're working on like helping independent developers do this on their own. There are like a bunch of different places that people can go to try to do publishing on their own, but it is nice for, I guess, it is possibly nice for more outlets to do this. Granted, we don't necessarily know the contracts that they are signing. If anything came out of like the statement from the Scrabdackle developer not too long ago talking about how like they wouldn't have seen any sort of revenue share unless they cleared a certain point, like, and people saying that that's actually pretty, like all of the issues that they were bringing up were pretty normal for indie games in this industry. I worry that that is happening with like all of these different publishing labels that come up. But currently, that's just kind of an aside. I have no idea. Like, I don't have any inklings that Super Rare Originals, that's happening with them, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is anecdotal, but the developer who I was talking to for Lone Ruin seemed very positive and happy to be working with Super Rare Games. So that at least is a good sign. Obviously that doesn't mean that everyone's experience is the same, or, maybe they were just saying that because they were on camera and they obviously don't want to shit on the company that just published them. But it seemed very genuine from the conversation that we had. So, and they said that they were very like hands-on approach, not just kind of like laid back of being like, do whatever, we don't care. So seemingly, it's a good thing. And we'll see. I mean, I'm excited to see what else that comes from them because they do say they have additional titles that they're working on, which is cool. I probably would only really be into Lone Ruin and
Same.
Maybe Post Void, but I feel like that would hurt my eyes, and those FPS games always give me headaches. So probably just Lone Ruin. Grapple Dog looks pretty cool too, but I don't know.
Yeah, Lone Ruin is the only one that I could easily say was for me. I feel like the Gecko Gods might be something that I hopped into if I wanted to just chill for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the games look really interesting. There are definitely some good jelly, not my jam things. Like Post Void, absolutely not. I'm not going to play that fucking game.
Yeah,
it gave me a fucking headache after 10 seconds. There's no way I could play that game. But Lone Ruin looks pretty fucking dope. So I would recommend people check that one out, and we'll let you know when the indie developer interview goes live. It's going to be sooner or later, whatever. We'll talk about it.
That's right.
But that is it for this news story. So it is time for us to hop into News Cram. News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we, the hosts of an indie pod podcast,
What's happening?
an indie games podcast, cram you full of all sorts of indie games news. This week we don't have any quick news stories or new deals and quick steals, but instead got a whole bunch of new stuff for you. So our first 7 items in new stuff come by way of Nintendo Life, where it's reported that platformer Horus by Paul Hellman and Sean Scaplehorn is getting a physical release through Super Rare Games, with pre-orders going live on January 27th, which by the time that this they're going to be live by the time this comes out for free feeds. So there you go.
So get it.
The park management game Mega Aquarium by Twice Circled has just its Freshwater Frenzy DLC was just delayed to March 1st. So that kind of sucks for anybody looking forward to it. The roguelike deck builder Castle Morihisa, I don't know how to say that one, by Studio Voyager and Iguanabee is headed to the Nintendo Switch on March 4th. This one actually looks pretty cool. I think you should look into it, Big Josh Boy. It's got all the things that make you quiver in your underneath, you know what I mean? All the things that make your pants tight. That puzzle platformer, What Lies in the Multiverse by Studio Voyager and Iguanabee. Motherfucker, did I just read that thing wrong. Oh, the Castle Morihisa is by Smoking Bear Studios, and it is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam on February 10th. I read the wrong thing. That puzzle platformer, What Lies in the Multiverse by Studio Voyager and Iguanabee, is headed to the Nintendo Switch on March 4th. That platformer Jack and Hat by Cross Game Studio is now available on the Nintendo Switch. That both puzzle platformer Hoa and puzzle game Ever Forward by Pathia Games are getting physical releases through Numbskull Games, with Hoa releasing on March 11th and Ever Forward on March 25th. Those are a little bit weird because I guess Numbskull only publishes in like the EU or just Europe in general, so I'm not 100% certain. But if you want to get copies of those games, I know that like I've heard people say they set up like PO boxes and then just had people ship it to them and all sorts of weird stuff. I don't really know. Shit's weird. And I bit my tooth in the middle of saying that, so I'm feeling uncomfortable. And that turn-based strategy game Gem Wizard's Tactics. It's just a weird name, dude.
I guess so.
Plus, I bit my tooth, so now I'm weird. That Gem Wizards Tactics by Keith Bergen Games is headed to the Nintendo Switch sometime later this year. Now over on Twinfinite, where it's reported that adventure game Subway Midnight by Bubby Darkstar is headed to consoles sometime later in 2022. I don't know what consoles. The Twinfinite article was just like, consoles. And I was like,
consoles, baby, that's where they at.
Yeah, I'm like, all right. That Monster Tamer Koromon by Tragsoft is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam and Mac on March 31st. And that adventure game The Artful Escape by Beethoven and Dinosaur is headed to both PlayStation platforms as well as the Nintendo Switch on January 25th. Now over on IGN, where it's reported that first-person horror game Underworld Dreams: The False King by Drop of Pixel is headed to PC via both the Epic Game Store and Steam sometime this spring. That story-driven RPG Songs of Glimmerwick by Eastshade Studios is headed to PC via Steam as well as consoles sometime in 2023. And this one's just a quick one that the Cuphead show will be debuting on Netflix on February 18th. And to round out the group over on GameSpot, it is reported that 2D action roguelike game Have a Nice Death by Magic Design Studios is headed to Steam Early Access on March 8th. So, big Josh boy, we've been blessed with so many amazing indie games, indie game news stories, and the such that we got to give back to them creators in our next segment. Sorry, indie game shoutouts. Big Josh boy, you want to talk about a game called Revita, so I'll just let you take that away.
I do. Before we get into that, though, I do want to just talk real quick about two things. One, what I was talking about with that limited release and concern concept was something called Super Rare Shorts. It was Super Rare Games.
Okay. I was like, I knew it in the back of my head.
I had to do a bunch of just going through our old episodes to find the thumbnail that had it and then look up an article about it. But Super Rare Shorts was from Super Rare Games, but the idea was that they were going to do exactly this, but they were going to develop games that were then physical only for a limited time of like the 5,000 copies that they do. And people went ape shit. And then they were like, oh, well, then maybe we'll do digital afterwards. Remember? Because
I remember now.
Because people started going real crazy because it was a
they rolled
dumb
it back
idea.
like literally the next week.
And so I guess they totally rolled it back like fully and are now like, well, let's just do all digital. So I don't know. Unless something came of this Super Rare Shorts, but I never heard anything of this afterwards.
Yeah, maybe they're keeping both, but we just don't know. Like maybe they do have shorts going and also are going to do originals, but
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Now that I know it's Super Rare, I'm like marginally less excited about it.
Well, I mean, it's fine if it's digital because I can't like the fact that they backpedaled so hard and so quick. I can't imagine that people would be okay with trying to push limited digital releases because that's nuts.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I mean, that's not necessarily what I'm worried about. I'm just worried about like, I don't know. It's kind of like I never get excited for a Google thing because Google's always like shuttering projects and you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like once somebody starts like just tucking away projects, like mothballing them or just within months of each other, I'm like, oh, hopefully this goes well.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I don't think they would screw over the developers. So at least those 5 games would come out. But like,
You hope
yeah, well, you hope so. But, you know, are there any others that will actually come to fruition? Like, we'll have to see. And then number 2 is I know that Ryan wanted us to talk about the Cuphead show. Are you going to actually watch it? Are you excited for that at all?
So from what I understand, it's going to be 12 episodes, 12 minutes a piece. So it's really not that long.
That's a short series, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'll like hop into it. I'll check it out. Like I really don't I don't think I'm going to enjoy it, and I don't think that it's like something I'm really looking forward to because it is meant to be a kid's show. But I think it looks cool. Like, hey, maybe I can say I beat Cuphead in a way because I watched the 12 episodes.
The pacifist run.
Yeah, I'm like, they're like, you ever play Cuphead? And I'm like, I mean, kinda. You know, like I watched the Cuphead show.
That's
so
good enough. Well, I mean, you're just speed running through the show, you know? You watch that on 2 times and you're a fucking pro. Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna like it either because the animation isn't the same as Cuphead. Like it's slightly different because the type of animation that it would have been I don't know why I said would have been twice. That animation is a lot more time consuming and expensive than the way they did it. And I've seen people who are like, yeah, the voice acting is amazing. I hate the voice that they chose for Cuphead and Mugman. He seems like I don't like that he is this like New York mobster voice. Like
I gotta watch this fucking trailer. I haven't watched it yet. I just saw that they were like, finally a release date.
Yeah, his voice seems so off from what I would have thought from Cuphead. But he has this very like just New York-y accent of like, I don't know. This is a really bad example, and I also haven't watched it in a while, but he's like, come on, Mugman, we gotta do it. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right at all.
I mean, to be fair, it is this like, it's vaguely like a moonshining simulator. You know what I mean? Like, Inkwell Isle is supposed to be, I guess, I would say, I believe it is like loosely based off of, I think, like culture in Louisiana in a sense. I'm not 100% sure, and it kind of ties into the rubber hose like Steamboat Mickey theme.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess I could see a moonshiner being like, "Oh, come on, my man, do it!" Like, sound like some dumbass hillbilly. So I don't know. Maybe I'll like it.
No,
maybe
it's
just
not,
that added layer. I'll be like, huh.
Yeah,
I like the meta game of this,
and it's not that much, but it just doesn't feel like when I think, you know, it's the same idea of like, because you didn't really hear any voices in it, you always have this like picture of what they would sound like. The same with like if you read a book and then they made a movie or TV adaptation and you were like, this is not who I thought at all when I was reading the book. Like that's very much how this feels to me. It's like every time he talks, I'm like, stop doing that. Stop making that noise. Like it's not right.
Just shut your mouth. Just shut your mouth.
I'll probably still like it because I love cartoony cartoons, but I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see if I can get past that voice. Anyway.
All right. I'm excited to see. Yeah, tell me about Revita.
Let's do it. So let's go to my indie shout out for Revita. Now, this is a game that is, it's been on my, kind of like my radar, not my eyes. That's a weird way to say it. It's been on my radar for a while now. But it's been in early access for a good year or two. I think maybe a year. Maybe I'm giving it a little longer than that. But that being said, it reminds me a lot of Neon Abyss. So a lot in the sense of combat. You have a 2D, you're platforming, you know, from kind of left to right. You're jumping around in the space, and you have these different guns or these type of blasters that you're shooting enemies, and you get a bunch of different power-ups that change up your run. I don't know too much about it, but there seems to be, you know, they're constantly adding things to it. I recently saw that as of, I believe it was November, they made a post that's pinned on their Twitter page that says something to the nature of, hey, this is our last update until this fully goes live. Like, then we'll be done with early access. So I'm kind of just sitting on it, especially now that I've waited so long. But once I hear that their 1.0 release comes out, I'm definitely going to check this out. If people are interested, the best place would be to go to either their Steam page and just go to Revita, so that's Revita, or to their Twitter, which is at Revita Game, which is just the name of the game and then game right after. It looks cool. I would recommend people check it out. Once again, I haven't actually played it from its early access stage, so I don't know what it's like other than from what I've seen in videos, but it looks like it's something that I would enjoy, and I can't wait until the 1.0 release.
So it has almost been a year since it went into early access, it seems. Like it went into early access on March 3rd, 2021. So it's getting pretty close. I actually followed this one on Twitter for a decent amount of time before it even went into early access, mainly because I really loved the art style for it of that like blue-haired kid running around with his scarf trailing behind him. I thought it looked really cool. And at times, like the gun would at times during development, they would show little bits and like the gun would almost float around you. It's very weird. The game looks pretty fleshed out now. It looks really cool. So I'll actually be looking forward to the release. Watching the Steam trailer, they have like, you can get new heads and hats and stuff like that. And it looks really cool where you get them out of this, like it's, I don't want to say a pachinko machine. What is it called?
Like a gumball machine?
Yeah, almost a gumball machine. I forget what they're called, but it looks really cool. $14.99 to if you want to get into early access. And then I imagine they probably it's a pretty common practice to kick prices up at least a little bit after like leaving early access. So I would assume this goes up to 20.
Yeah, and they say on there, what's good about that early access page for Steam is they usually have these as like the main questions, like just template questions. There's always one in here, or very often, will the game be priced differently during and after early access? And they say, we plan to gradually raise the price as we ship new content and features. So there is a very good chance that by the time this hits 1.0, the price does go up to like $20.
Yeah. So there you go. If you're into it, I don't know, pick it up in early access. Then it might move to the full release and you'll be like, hell yeah, I got this freaking game. For me, my indie shout out was actually brought to my attention by Mr. Quist Penwell. Thank you so much. He just hit me up on Twitter and he was like, hey, I remembered you saying you really liked Momodora. Like the developers actually announced a new game. This is Momodora Moonlit Farewell. They it's developed by Bomb Service, published by Playism. They don't have any it's a TBA release date, but it looks a lot like Reverie Under the Moonlight. It looks very, very close to that versus it's not, what is the fucking game that they put out? I keep wanting to say Omori, but that's not it. Minoria. It's not that art style. It's much more Reverie Under the Moonlight, which is this actually what I prefer. Yeah, it looks good. I'm really into it. Plus, there's like the busty elf lady at some point.
Oh my goodness! You see that snake lady?
Dude, no. Where's the snake lady at?
Oh my god, dude! The snake lady basically got her titties just like popping right out. It's nuts.
Snake lady can get it. Let's go, Momodora.
You gotta.
Yeah, this series like hella horny. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude. The one, there's like a still image on Steam where it's saying like Your Highness. So I guess they're talking about princess. This is one busty princess.
That's what I'm talking about. The elf lady. Yeah, okay, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I'm excited for the next Momodora game. I'm wondering if this is the end of the series because they say the latest installment, but it's called Moonlit Farewell.
Go to 110 on that first video on their Steam page. 110, baby.
Oh, okay.
Right before it's about to end. There's like, she's just got pasties on.
Okay, 110. Let's see what's up. We gotta. Oh shit! Yeah, there's some buxom busty ladies in the Momodora series. It's pretty intense. Literally, like in Reverie Under the Moonlight, there's a boss fight where you just punch this giant's titties. Like it's pretty insane.
It's so funny because Momodora, like they just keep doing the same thing where anytime you watch these games or look at these games, you could be so fooled because a whole minute goes by and you're like, some good gameplay. This is a really nice looking Metro, and then you're like, whoa, tits! Whoa, what is that? They just come out of
It's just
nowhere.
all about that fan service. It's the game series really teeters between like just fantastic gameplay elements and like really cool lore and fan service in a way that I very much enjoy. You know what I mean, Big Josh boys? So there you go. I'm super interested in it. I'm almost wondering if this is going to be the last game as well, because I had briefly talked to the developer on Twitter a long time ago, like a couple years ago, about the development of like Minoria, and they seemed pretty down about it. They did not seem very happy, mostly because like there was a negative reaction to the game. Because it does have like a different art style. Moonlit Farewell goes back to the old art style, but Minoria is a little bit different, which I gotta remember. That's one of the games in my backlog I gotta make sure I beat this year. But yeah, I'm excited for Momodora Moonlit Farewell. Thank you so much to Mr. Chris Penwell for telling me about that bad boy. But we have gone through our indie shout-outs, so it is time for our audience questions. Mr. Philip Renshaw, the one-bit imp of Australia, writes in and asks, motherfucker, get out of here. Would you prefer to have your... says? No, I was accidentally like clicked on the link still to the Moonlit Farewell, and it like popped up right as I was reading, and I was like, get the fuck out of here, bitch.
Trying to give you more of them titties.
Exactly. I mean, you never have too many. Writes in and says, would you prefer to have your legs replaced with arms or your arms replaced with legs? Both of us said that this is a pretty easy question, because seemingly you'd either be all arms or all legs. Yeah. Big Josh boy, which one you choosing?
All arms. I want the opposable thumbs.
That's the only way to do it.
What are you talking about? Yeah, I could just pick everything up with every single one of my appendages.
Yeah, it would honestly, imagine if you had just all fucking legs. You wouldn't be able to pick anything out. You would just have to like fucking foot job everything. You know what I mean? Like that's some dumb shit.
I mean, some people
I would
are
hate
into
that so much.
That's a big kink for some.
And I got thick thighs, bro. I couldn't fit into any of my shirts. You know, I don't got a thigh gap. Bro, I rub holes in every pair of pants. Well, so, I just have to buy new pants.
Would they be as, you know how legs, arms you can kind of like noodle around, where I feel like legs are usually a bit more stiff, where they just kind of like...
Yeah, you just be like this.
So would you just have to be like this in your shirt? You'd be like, I'm a scarecrow.
Yeah, that would be a little weird. That would definitely be weird. So yeah, arms is definitely the way to go. Plus, like, you could do so much dope shit with just arms. Like, it's awesome, you know?
Yeah. Think about climbing trees.
Easy question, Mr. Phillip. And then they're just like, hey, let's ruin your life. So to keep up with the body horror theme, if your butt was to be replaced with the head of a celebrity that could talk to you, I love specifically that like they're sentient. Yeah. So they know what's happening. You know what I mean? Which celebrity would you choose? Big Josh boy, initially when he was like coming up with his idea for this, he was like, it has to be someone I hate.
Yeah. Well, because here's the thing. I was like, okay, I started out with this question thinking like, okay, who do I like and who do I want to spend time talking to, especially if they can talk to me? And then I was like, but if they're my butt, I'm still going to have bodily functions. And you can't
you got to fart and you got to poo.
I got to poo right through them. So it's like a person I respect or want to talk to isn't going to have the same, after that first poo, it's going to be a much different conversation between them. And then it's like, okay, well, I might as well do it for someone I hate so that I have to gotta be like, hey, you fucking piece of shit, here you go. And then just poop right out their mouth and be like, I'm just going to keep this one here for you.
The only thing that sucks about that is you could go too far where you're like, yeah, I would love to like, yeah, that's the only thing that sucks about this. Which is like, I would love to have like Richard Spencer on my ass. So it's like, oh yeah, this like neo-Nazi has to smell my rank farts. You know what I mean?
Right.
But also, I would just have to hear his fucking neo-Nazi ravings all the time. And people would be like, what did you say, Vaughn? And I was like, I didn't say anything. It's my ass. Butt. It would be very weird. Also, though, like, dude, I suction cup the stink in when I'm taking a deuce. So, like, they're going to be stewing. I don't know if they could breathe in there. My butt might die, you know?
Ooh, yeah, like, that is a weird one. I don't know.
You think you'd have to feed them? Like, Do they have like reverse digestion process? If you fed them, would it just come out their mouth or would you poop? Yeah.
I'm not into that at all.
You're like, this is just getting worse. The further it goes, like, would you have to feed them so it didn't die? You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to feed my butt so it doesn't die. Would you be able to feel them
or would they feel you? You know, like if you're sitting on your butt, you know how you feel? I could feel my butt right now because I'm sitting on it. Would I feel their face being squished or would they just be like, I'm in pain and I'm be like, I've got a normal butt right now? Like,
you know, every time you like sit down and you leave like a butt indent, it would just be a face everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be so weird. It'd be like Michael Scott in the concrete outside Dunder Mifflin. It's just like this weird face indent. But they would be like struggling to breathe. So it would just be like a scream of horror all the time. They were like, ah!
Yeah.
So yeah, who would you choose, Big Josh Boy?
Man, I cannot even begin to. One, I don't really care too much about celebrities, so I don't really want to talk to anyone. I don't care about them.
Okay.
There are people who are good actors, and that's great, and I'll watch the movies and I like it, but I don't think I'm the type of person who really like has a role model or a type of person that I'm like, plus, I wouldn't want it in that context. It'd be like, great, I finally get to meet Jim Carrey as my ass. Like,
he'd be perfect in the role, though. He's so good at it.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. Yeah, I guess if it had to be positive, maybe Jim Carrey. I like him. Seems like a cool dude. If I had to hate him, I don't know. Bill Cosby, whatever.
Yeah, he's like pudding popping you, and it's just all sorts of different. This one is a little bit more difficult because it's like, I don't want to like talk to any celebrities, but also like I want somebody that I would be okay with torturing, but that would be tame enough to where I don't get murdered by people because my ass is talking to them. Like, which is actually kind of hilarious because my mother-in-law apparently used to fart and then tell my wife that her butt was talking to her, which I still think is like the funniest thing. So, I gotta choose somebody that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they would be like outwardly terrible.
I mean,
like you'd think like Mel Gibson seems like a good one, but then he might just be like throwing out some anti-Semitism.
That's true. That's true. And I can't.
I guess I could just be okay with always having that conversation where I'm just like, I was given one wish. I rubbed a lamp inside an antique store. A genie popped out. They were like, hey, you can have one wish, but it has to be butt related. And I was like, oh man, I'm a real big fan of butt stuff. And they were like, no, but like a weird butt related. And they were like, okay,
that's another
I guess
thing.
I'll choose this person's face on my butt.
I don't like that because like, what if I want to do butt stuff with my wife, I can't. Now she's just making out with a guy,
You're like, no, Bill, you don't get to kiss my wife. Fair point. To them, it would just be a gag. It wouldn't even be a butt plug. So, true. I mean, if I really had to choose somebody, I'm just trying to choose an actor that I don't despise, but I'd be totally fine with pooping out of their mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the sweet spot.
Well, I mean, it could be like any celebrity. So
that's true.
I guess it could be a musician as well. I'm trying to,
that's true.
You know what? I'm going to choose a country star because I fucking hate country. Wow. Let's go with like Kenny Chesney. I don't even know what that guy looks like, but I've heard his songs far too many times, in my life. I'm sick of it. You get to be my butt, bitch. Fuck you.
Wow. Got him.
I know if I ever see that guy in person, he might be dead, but if I ever see him in person, I'll be like, I just want to let you know you're on my list. And he'd be like, oh, like your fuck list? Like you're the ones that you can get like a hall pass for with your wife? And I'm like, no, the list of people that I would be okay if their face was my ass.
The fact that you have a list at all.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting conversation to have. And to just cap it off with some actual gaming related content, Phil also writes in and says, so Activision Blizzard has been basically purchased by Microsoft. Will it be a net negative or positive for the industry? Big Josh Boy, what do you think?
Bro, Xbox wins. They've got Candy Crush.
Really? Got Candy Crush. You're like Call of Duty, back burner, Candy Crush all the way.
All the way. Bro, it's not even a game anymore. All right? Console wars
Candy
are over.
Crush comes fucking pre-installed on like every Windows PC, by the way, and it's fucking annoying. Like when I set up my PC and had Windows, it was like, you've got Candy Crush. And I was like, but why though? You know? Like,
because
I didn't ask for that.
Microsoft owns now.
Yeah.
It's the good stuff. So to look at this as a more like realistic or just serious tone, I think this is very interesting for a lot of reasons. A week or so before this happened, Phil Spencer was talking about how like he was really disappointed with Blizzard and Activision and like their treatment of people, and then is like, but also they're mine now, which is, it seems very hypocritical. But also you could kind of be like, well, maybe he'll change things and Microsoft will make it a better place for people. Seemingly they have a good track record of kind of like, I don't want to say fit. Well, that's the weird thing is because Xbox has a track record of being good to developers, but in situations where they're already like running well and being like, you keep doing your thing, buddy. But this is a situation where you can't do that.
Yeah, if anything, we've heard them being like pretty hands off as long as things are going well. And it's like, they're not though.
Can't do it this time, Microsoft. Like you gotta step in. So I think it's super interesting from that perspective, but also from like the Sony perspective is they already had, you know, the conference where they said, hey, nothing's really like ultimately changing right away for the short term, but down the road, you know, what happens when Xbox decides Call of Duty is ours and it's only on Microsoft's own product like PC and Xbox. I don't think they'll do that in the immediate future. I think you still have another 5 years or so with Call of Duty, so it really doesn't matter in this short term span because it's ultimately a net win for them to put it on multiple areas because they'll get such an increase in money from just all the copies of that game that they'll sell, since it's
also like microtransactions as well.
Right,
like
exactly.
They make a lot of money off microtransactions.
Like they don't need to worry about the money side of things because they're already doing relatively well. Like if you look at the numbers of consoles that are being sold for PS5s versus like Series X and S's, the amount is fairly close. It's like a couple million off, which sounds like a lot, but it's not in comparison to how many have been sold, which is a good thing. Granted, down the road, they might want to say like, no, we're going to crush them. But Xbox also, like Microsoft's approach hasn't really felt like they're trying to crush anyone. They're just trying to become someone who stirs the pot a lot in this industry. So I don't think they're trying to kill Sony. If they're really voicing their opinion on ideals of like, you know, we want competition so it stirs up better things for the industry in general. Granted, you could say that and not really mean it. That's super easy to do. But I think that Sony still has yes, it might kill the audience of the people who are just like, I got a PlayStation because it's what all my buddies have and we play Call of Duty and sports games or whatever the fuck. But like, you're still going to have a ton of Sony fans who want it for the Sony exclusives that already exist. The God of Wars, the Horizon Zero Dawns, you know, like those games are still out there and they're not going anywhere. Like this was still a third party type entity that they bought. Now, if they were like, we got Santa Monica Studios and we bought them somehow, I'd be like, that's bad news. Right. But like, otherwise, fuck it. Like PlayStation will figure it out. Like they're not going to be like hurting that much. Like granted, they lost billions of dollars in their stock recently, but like stock market is fucking, that shit goes up and down all the time. That doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah, the Activision Blizzard purchase is so weird because it's so multifaceted. Like I am excited, I guess, or I'm like cautiously optimistic about the prospect of Microsoft purchasing them because like one, it actually like it almost it is probably going to go through, but it could not. Like they did purchase them, but there are like some different whole like hoops that they have to jump through to make sure like, oh, they can't be basically developing a monopoly. So the government could be like, nah, let's not do that. But if they do purchase them, I'm excited for the prospect of Microsoft taking over. And since they have had this sort of like allow people to run their own ship as long as they're doing good things, since they have had that with so many developers before, I think it frees them up to kind of like, I think Activision Blizzard and all of the studios that are encompassed within that need to be micromanaged for the most part, at least for a little while, to make sure that they do meld with the Microsoft Studios culture and that, you know, they get away from all the like sketchy business practices. Bobby Kotick is supposedly going to step down once the deal goes through, which I'm happy about, but also he's gonna come out of this with billions of dollars. So it's like
he's still a winner in the end. Like
I'm both happy and annoyed with that, but whatever. I think it's really, I think it's cool, but also I think it's a little bit weird. Like you were talking about Microsoft not wanting to win necessarily. And I don't think Microsoft is trying to win any sort of console war. I don't think that they are in that mindset. Instead, I think they're trying to change the landscape of gaming. And right now they hold a massive They hold like a massive advantage when it comes to negotiating with Sony as to how exactly the games industry moves forward, where Microsoft has been on the Xbox Game Pass and like subscription service train for a while. And since this acquisition, a lot of people are saying like, if they threaten to take away Call of Duty or something, is it possible that Xbox Game Pass comes to PlayStation? Is it possible that like the two kind of have to work together now because Microsoft holds these fucking crazy nukes now? Like, granted, Sony has said that as far as they know, Call of Duty will stay on that platform for the duration of their contracts, but we don't know exactly how long those contracts are. And like the Call of Duty League is through Sony. We don't know exactly what those contracts say or anything. The one thing that I'm really worried about is Sony's response to this, because I'm so terrified that they are going to go the way of what a lot of fanboys want them to do, which is purchasing someone of their own. And I'm like, please don't do that. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to fucking purchase Square Enix now. And I'm like, just don't do that, because then it really becomes that arm race of like escalation. Like, who are they going to buy next? How are they going to one up them? Sony does not have the capital to do that with Microsoft. They just don't. Like, it's just a fact. Microsoft can drop several $1 billion versus the like one of the biggest acquisitions for Sony recently was like Insomniac, and that was like a couple $100 million, like that's a lot of money. But Microsoft just shelled out like I think it was like $68 billion for fucking like Activision Blizzard. So I'm so terrified. Like I was been thinking about this today because I saw this question, and the thing that I can really liken this to, and this is obviously like Lord of the Rings fans will get this, everyone else won't. If you're a fucking, I don't know, like a fantasy nerd, you'll get it. But it's like being Elrond or Samwise watching both Isildur and Frodo like dangling over the edge of Mount Doom with the one ring, and they're just like, oh, I think I'll throw it in, and you're just like, it could mean catastrophe if you didn't. So but it's obviously like, if they did, I don't want them to purchase a Square Enix. Instead, I would like Sony to just kind of like keep going with what they're doing, as long as this vague like what is it? A history on the platform or something like that. As long as Call of Duty and like the Elder Scrolls and Fallout series, and I guess some other series, we don't exactly know what's going to be exclusive to Microsoft consoles yet.
I think Starfield is exclusive, right?
Starfield is, but it doesn't have a legacy on PlayStation platforms.
Right, that's true. That's very true.
That's like the vague terminology that they're using is like the legacy, I believe is how they say it, versus like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, like they do in a sense, but
Right.
You can find ways around that. And like with their acquisition of Mojang, however you want to say it, the developers of Minecraft, they've kept it on all these platforms.
Right. Yeah.
So I hope that it behooves Microsoft enough to not start making things exclusive like a Call of Duty or anything like that. Because I think that will kind of force Sony's hand to try to purchase somebody else. Instead, I think Sony should just keep going the way they're going, only purchasing studios that they actually have a history with, like Housemarque, like Insomniac, continue to do stuff like that. They purchased Nix's, but that was to make PC ports, which is something that they obviously want to do, as like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Days Gone have all come to PC. And if anything, what I think they should do, and what they have already should have done, is started to invest more in indie developers to get people like stuff to play on their console right now, because there's just a dearth of shit to play on PlayStation 5. There's really no reason to own it for the most part.
Unless you want those specific exclusives, which I think is like, that's PlayStation's selling point, right? And that's kind of why I was saying like nothing really changes for PlayStation, at least in the immediate future. And if Xbox is, keeping up with this legacy idea, then nothing really changes. I like it as a positive for the industry, because I'm hoping that this does push those, the inner workings of those companies to change up, right? Like management changing to create a better environment for those people working. From a holistic perspective of like where the industry is going, I can see that, from your point, if like PlayStation purchased a bunch of things now, like that might create this this kind of just this space of like, you can only have like, it creates this area of just forcing people to always have both consoles, which kind of sucks because not everyone has the money to do that, right?
Yeah. It's definitely not consumer friendly.
Right, which is against the idea of what like Xbox is always trying to push for. I'd be very surprised if Xbox tried to buy anyone else after this, because it would be a clear like it would be very obvious that they are talking one thing and doing another, if that was the case, because like at this point, Xbox, you've made your point. Like you have games now, chill out.
There's supposedly rumors that they might purchase Sega. That is the other thing that I've heard, which is interesting.
I can see it because they do have a relationship with Sega, and they have a number of games that are like through them. But like, I feel like that would be too much, because
would be a bridge too far.
Yeah, because like we're getting to a point where the monopoly idea is a bit a real thing, just because. And don't get me wrong, like I love that they're doing this from a consumer perspective, because put everything on Game Pass, like I'll play things that come there because I'm already paying for that subscription, and it's just free games for me in a way. But also I'm real nervous about this, because now you keep getting all these games, they're going to be like, well, I guess Game Pass has got to go up, got to make the price increased, right? Like too many games, too many things. How does it become lucrative for Xbox at a certain point? So at the same time, I also don't want that, because I don't want to pay more, obviously. I don't know. I don't think that anything is going to change in the immediate future. I think it just depends on what starts becoming an exclusive. I think PlayStation is still going to be fine, and people are going to want PlayStation for their specific exclusives. Like the studios that are a part of PlayStation are really good at doing what they do, which is those, single player story experiences, which
even if it's just one type of game.
But that's enough.
But they do a good job.
They do if you do something really well, then people will flock to it. And I think that they've nailed that down, where they are consistently good at throwing out very high rated games. And for that, like they're still going to do fine. I'm sure that if Call of Duty did go exclusive to Xbox, it would make a pretty bad impact on like their player base, but I don't think it would be an immediate thing either.
Yeah, I definitely think, like I said before, what decides if this is a negative or positive is not this acquisition. I almost don't even think it's like Microsoft's handling of this, because we have a vague idea of what it's going to be. It's really just Sony's answer to it. If they decide that they need to go on any sort of like a purchasing spree if they decide, because you know that Sony is going to make those games exclusive. They're not going to be shooting for multi-plats. It's not what they do for the most part. And hey, you spent fucking money on it. Why? I get it. Like, I'm not trying to disparage Sony for actually like keeping games that they paid money for. Exclusives suck for a lot of people. I totally get that, but I don't. Yeah, you paid money for it. I get it. I get why you'd want to do that. But I definitely think it could damage the industry for the most part if we just started getting in what would be a true console war, where people were like just trying to make their console the absolute, not even best place to play games, but it's just like their console has, if you want to play Call of Duty, you literally have to own an Xbox. Otherwise you can't play it, or any of these things. Otherwise, like right now we're pretty solid. We're pretty like central when it comes to it, where you can pick up any third party game, like some first party games you can pick up outside of it. Obviously, if you have PC, it's a little bit different, but I don't think that they'll make Call of Duty at the very least it's obviously a first party studio, or it's going to be a first party now, but I don't think that they'll make it exclusive, especially because of how much money it makes. But I do think what's going to happen is that it's not going to be, once the contract is over with Sony, I don't think that you'll see the hardcore like PlayStation representation that it has now, where maps come first to PlayStation or whatever.
Right. Like that would be the difference, is you'd get like cosmetic things, you would get special events that are Xbox specific, you would get special, whatever types of different things that would come first or only show up on Xbox. Because it does make sense that something like those type of games are on a multi-platform aspect, because you want a large player base when it comes to a multiplayer game. So it makes a lot of sense that PlayStation would have those games that are like, it's a single player game, it's exclusive to us, like you need our console. Just the same where like I would expect, something like a Fable or, any of those newer games from Xbox to be specifically just Xbox. But when it comes to these like very highly multiplayer, you want as many people as you can get in the door, because there's things like, the cosmetics or the different, battle pass or whatever they create for it. Like you want more people in there to give you more money. And you also want more people in there so that the player experience is better. Like you're not waiting in queues because there's not enough players around. Like I definitely agree with you that I don't see that it'll just be like, oh, we're exclusive now, it's only that. But like Xbox would still make their money. Like granted, it's going to take a while to make up, billions, but like they're still going to make that money every time someone buys a copy, every time someone buys something in game, because it goes to Xbox, whether or not you're playing on PlayStation.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very interested to see how this like purchase affects and the change in like what should be the change in studio culture with a lot of these games that are like ongoing when it comes like I'm talking about like Call of Duty Warzone. I'm interested to see how that changes. I wonder if it even will, because when you purchase like the teams that work on Call of Duty Warzone, it's kind of if it's not broke, don't fix it. You're making money, why change it? But like World of Warcraft right now is in a lot of turmoil. A lot of people aren't playing it anymore. A lot of people are kind of upset with the state of the game. So I'm wondering how Microsoft will change that, and if they will. And like Overwatch, how is that going to go? Because for the most part, Blizzard has abandoned it. Like we've got Overwatch 2 coming out, but they have, for the most part, just from what I understand, not given a shit about Overwatch for the past like 2 years.
Yeah,
they gave up on StarCraft. They've done a lot.
On brand for Blizzard. They've
done a lot. So I'm excited. I'm most interested to see how those things change. Yeah. But we won't see that for years to come. Like Microsoft's impact on this, we won't see for probably like it won't even go through until 2023. So we don't even know what's going to happen at the very lowest rung until 2023. And then even then, we won't actually start to see these changes in studio cultures and how games are being developed or how any of these game like development teams are actually going to change or games are going to change until probably I would say 2025 at the earliest is when we'd see any actual change from this purchase. But
all I'm saying is bring Crash 4 to Xbox Game Pass.
Supposedly, a lot of people are like, a lot of people are really excited because the developers that did Crash 4 were then taken off of that. Hell. Yeah, and they were put on working on Call of Duty. And a lot of people are like, sweet, Microsoft says that they want to pull up a bunch of these old IPs like Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that. So maybe you're going to get Toys for Bob back and they're going to be making some fucking Crash shit or some Spyro.
I love me some Crash.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. It's definitely not something that you can give a definite, this is a positive or this is a negative, because it could go either way. It just entirely depends on how Sony reacts to this and what Microsoft changes. Because if they do purchase Activision Blizzard and nothing changes, the studio culture is still garbage, then I think their games are going to suck and Microsoft is going to be the one catching the brunt of this. And it's because they won't have Bobby Kotick to blame anymore.
Right.
Which Bobby Kotick did a bunch of fucked up shit. So I'm not saying that he's a scapegoat in any way. Dude's a garbage person. But like they won't have that easy person to blame. So we'll see what happens. But that is the end of this show. Thanks everyone so much for listening. If you would like to chat with us outside of these episodes, be sure to hit us up at IndiePod on Twitter. You can follow me, Vaughn, at Hyde Legion. You can follow Josh at the _George90. I was like totally thrown off. Be sure to check out our developer interview with Shotgun Anaconda. That one goes live on the 26th of January. Just each and every Wednesday, we got new developer interviews. Check them out. They're talking about the game Velocity Noodle. Check out the IndiePod store over on Teespring. Head over to YouTube, and you can watch these episodes, all sorts of fun stuff. Leave us reviews on iTunes and Spotify, or just any place in which you can do so. Helps us out a bunch. And lastly, thank you so much to all of our amazing patrons. Ooh, I got like a burp in there.
Nice burp.
But I also vaguely felt like I was going to throw up. So I was like,
I hate those. Those are bad.
Yeah, they're not fun. Thank you so much to all of our amazing patrons at the $3 tier or higher. If you give us any amount of money or any amount of your time, you are amazing and we love you for it. Thank you so much to Ryan, Ethan, a gamer for fun, John, it's just, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Weapon Emperor of Australia, and Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much. You're all so amazing. And we will talk to you all next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.